collectibles store, like comic book store. Like they can do all kinds of marketing things. But with recreational cannabis, because it's still federally illegal, you have to like understand some of those nuances that you can't just do everything.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of SEO On-Air. I'm your host, Aaron, and today we have Trevor Shirk, CEO and co-founder of Terrayn. We talk about how he started his journey, why he chose the cannabis industry, and what he has planned in the future. I hope you enjoyed this episode. When kind of getting to know Trevor, I think when we did a bit of research, we kind of found a few things. But one thing that kind of caught us a bit off guard was your transition from, I think, being in the army to being into digital marketing. Yep. So how did you kind of make that transition?
Yeah, so I made that transition because while I was still in the military, we had started to try to have a business where I was stationed in North Carolina. And in that process, we'd learned to build our own website. And then once we built the website, we tried to figure out how to get traffic, which is how I got exposed to digital marketing in the first place. Was our desire was we were trying to open a tattoo removal clinic. And so we built a website, we went and got it live. And then we were like, well, now that we have a website, how do people find it? And that's what led to digital marketing. And though we didn't end up opening that business, it helped me to be exposed to digital marketing. And then I was really intrigued about it that I started just learning on my own everything I could about digital marketing. And that was for about 2 years there that I just was still in the military, but my side kind of project or spare time was spent learning about business and learning about digital marketing.
And I think before the army, did you have any, let's say, drive or passion towards digital marketing, or was that something that happened later on?
It happened later on. I had no experience with it. I had no experience with marketing. Even my degree was in environmental engineering. It wasn't in marketing or business or finance or entrepreneurship, any of that. That was kind of my first taste of business on my own.
When you were starting off, let's say, creating Terrayn, what were some of the challenges that you kind of went through and the support that you kind of got also?
Yeah. So family is huge in the sense that, like, when they're behind you and supportive, whether it's the military or whatever, business, you can't replace that. Like, that's really important. So my family has always had my back and been very supportive for the military academy, for my time in the military when I was overseas. They've always been very supportive. When it came to business, some of the challenges with Terrayn that kind of popped up were a lot of the things I didn't know and understand. Like my mother ran her business, but I didn't run it. I didn't do bookkeeping. I didn't do accounting. She never did her own marketing because she never needed to. She had such a list of people that wanted to bring their kids to her daycare that she never really needed to market, other than that very first time that she put out a flyer. And I remember seeing her do that because I can remember what the flyer looked like for like Kelly's Family Childcare. So yeah, it was cool. But I think the challenges I had were just like, I didn't know what I didn't know. There were a lot of things I didn't know and understand about business, from the legal side, the financial side, that I had to like learn by doing and failing a lot. So I think that was I've failed pretty much, I think, on every aspect of business, but I've actually, I think, gotten to a point where I think could start or run just about any business because I get how the game is played and I get how to do planning, how to run meetings, how to, design a strategy, how to use tactics, how to come up with, your narrative and how to like market it. Like I've learned a lot in that sense.
Yeah, I think there was a saying, I'm not too sure how the full one goes, but it's something like you should fail fast because then it'll give you more time to kind of work on it and everything.
Yeah.
I'm kind of rephrasing the same question, but if you could go back in time and meet your younger self before starting Terrayn, what are some of the tips and tricks you would talk to yourself about?
I had an uncle, my grandfather's younger brother on my dad's side, told me when I was getting out of the military to like go learn in someone else's business and then start your own. I didn't do that. I should have done that. I should have did that. But yeah, if I could go back, I'd give myself like a whole list of things to avoid and not do. I mean, I could just list them off. Like the people you get in this with is huge. I would have been more careful about some of that. The type of work you get into, I would be more careful about some of those things. Designing the business from the beginning to be bigger than, so if you want to grow it, you don't have to like go back and fix things. Like as we've grown Terrayn, we've had to like grown fast and then plateaued as we had to like redo things and we created a mess and then we'd have to go fix it. And I think some of that, like if I could just would have slowed down, I would have like thought, oh, let's be more deliberate about this and do it right from the start. Investing in your own marketing and branding, like, like we have gotten caught up in like some other parts of the business and like neglected other areas. And that has like cost us a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. Not balancing like my personal life with work life has cost me a lot in that sense. Like, that's probably the most, like painful lesson was like the things that it has cost to like build a business to a certain level has been painful. Like that stinks.
Yeah,
So,
I can imagine.
yeah.
One thing that I can probably maybe add on to is that with your years of training and I think 8 years in deployed as well, did you find that those, let's say, disciplinary trainings kind of helped you out with some of the starting up ventures?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the time I had in the military, everything from the day you go to a military academy until you get out, you're constantly leading people, which business, owning a company, building a company is, you can be self-employed and just be a solopreneur, but the reality is you're going to lead somebody if you're going to grow it because you're going to need help to grow it. So that leadership has like paid dividends, all that experience. The other piece is like the tenacity and the grit. Like a lot of times in the military, you're put in these scenarios where it's like you have to like be bold and audacious and go for it. And you have to take risks. And you know that some of those risks could be, bad, like catastrophic. So you learn that like you calculate the risk, you mitigate the risk, but then you boldly go forward. And I think for us as a business, like there's been a couple times where we've had like these moments where we've had to just kind of plow forward and, roll the dice and take the risk, but like work to mitigate it. So yeah, there's a tremendous amount of lessons learned working with people, negotiating with people, that I've had to apply from my time in the military to my time running a business and growing it.
We have actually kind of talked a lot more about you, but I want to spend a little bit of time on Terrayn.
Yeah, absolutely.
This might be a very pretty blunt question, but what exactly is Terrayn? How was it kind of started off and what drew you to that name as well?
Yeah, so the name comes from a concept from the military, which is called key terrain. And one of the things when you're doing planning in the military, when it comes to key terrain, is it could be a hilltop, it could be a relationship, but you tend to win the battle if you secure the key terrain. And if you ever study like the Battle of Gettysburg, there was like this hill, like a little round top. Well, that was key terrain for that battle. Whoever controlled that had the ability to win the battle. Well, in the military, they teach you to always like identify the key terrain. So with local businesses, one of the things we identified was if you serve a local market and you're not found in local mobile searches online, which could be maps, which could be your website, you're missing the key terrain of the most motivated buyers in your market, which are people that just need help. Like if you're a roofer and you do roof repair and they're looking for roof repair, concrete repair, or you insert whatever and they pull out their phone and look, being found, that's key terrain. You should secure that as a local business owner. That's where the name came from, Terrayn. We couldn't buy the URL that spelled it correctly, so we spelled it with the Terrayn. But that's kind of the backstory of Terrayn, and what it means, the key terrain concept from the military.
Right. And what kind of, let's say, services do you offer?
Yeah, so our main service that we offer is this one we call hyperlocal, which is focused around that local mobile search exposure, mainly in Google and Apple Maps, and helping to optimize that and increase that so that those motivated buyers in a market can find the nearest and best, solution to their search, whether that's a retail store that serves local people for like jewelry or dispensaries or CBD or insert whatever local veterinarian, roofer, concrete repair, general contractor, restaurant, pizza place, all these things could be, potential clients for what we do with our hyper local.
Right. I was kind of leading up to another question, but I pretty much think I can just jump into it.
Yeah, shoot.
Did you guys kind of start off as, let's say, a full service agency where you were providing as many services as possible, or did you start off with one and then just stick with it and grow over time?
Yeah, so that's a good question, because that's a dilemma that everybody faces in this space.
They always want to know, should we start off with one or start off with everything?
Yeah, well, the reality is, to get our first revenue, I was willing to do anything. So we built, like, I think our first client we still have from 2016, and yeah, we do. I know we do. And the first thing we did was build his website and build a Facebook marketing campaign and do all the on-page SEO for his website, which included the maps stuff, in like 96 hours, which was ridiculous, but it was just me. So I didn't have any business. So like, I could just sit there and knock it out, and we did. And, so yeah, we started as full service, any industry. And then as we started to pick up momentum and grow, we refined it down to one niche, which was the dispensaries, and then one offer, which was the map exposure, the hyper local. Now we've kind of started to migrate back towards being more full service, because as we've grown, we've picked up enablers and assets like the ability to fix web development or website issues. Well, then we start to offer that. We start to go back towards more of a full service agency and more of the ability to help other industries. And so we've continued to like focus on that niche, but we also have opened up to the idea that, hey, we could help some other industries. So we're open to doing that now, but we've kind of come full circle in that sense. And I'll throw this out as like, anybody that's like struggling with this, is we're only opening up to other industries and other services as the opportunities arise for us to do so. We're not just instantly flipping to, hey, we're full service now, we can do everything, because we used to do that early on, and it was like overwhelming, exhausting, crazy, complete chaos. You have to kind of manage that chaos of, okay, now that we have somebody that can help fix website issues, what existing clients need it? And then if a new client comes along and that's what they need, then let's offer that. But let's do it incrementally, kind of a little bit at a time, not just all at once. I think, we live in a world now where you can't just be what we call like a one-trick pony. You have to, if you can help in other ways, you have to kind of do that, because I think everybody, with the increasing costs we've had in the US market, it's like you have to be very like aware that clients have to make hard decisions about where they allocate the limited budget they have. And we're doing the same thing. We look at all of our vendors, and we've had to reallocate and say like, hey, we just can't afford to spend this on this. It doesn't make, the ROI is not there, and your costs have doubled in the last 2 years. So like, now we question if we should even use this tool because it's doubled in the last 2 years. So everybody's doing that. So I think you have to be willing to like take on other services and things that you can responsibly deliver on, or partner with people who can.
And just to kind of reiterate what you're saying, it wouldn't be a good idea to offer, let's say, a service that is profitable, but something that no client has ever actually asked me about.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you should build the solution from the client's problem back, not just roll out a solution that you can do. We, I think, have been pretty good at like, identifying, like we had a software we built that was a business intelligence application that it's going back on the shelf for a later time right now, because the clients don't have the budget or the willingness or the time to use it. So that's an example where, we thought we were building it from the problem back years ago when we started it, but I think our window, we were too slow to get it into market. We were too slow to like really get out there and capitalize on it. And then the market changed and they no longer have a demand for it. So they don't have the problem anymore that it solved. So it's no longer useful. So I would definitely provide the solutions that clients are asking for. Like our website changes, development stuff, they ask for that all the time. So we then found someone who could add to the team and an opportunity to kind of help them with that.
I asked that question because I've come across a few agencies who see, let's say, a particular service like social media, and they know the profits that they can make or how much they can, help businesses with that particular service. But they themselves have no experience with it. None of their clients or previous clients have ever asked them to do it as well. I always feel like that's something that people kind of just take up just to get more, let's say, food on the table. What would be your advice to, let's say, new agency owners who have a trouble saying no to clients?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Like I feel that's who pays you, so you got to like solve problems for them. I think you have to look at it differently. You have to kind of flip your role to their role. Like if I'm going to go have heart surgery, do I want the guy who's learning to do heart surgery, or do I want the guy who's like the best at heart surgery? And it's like obvious. If I'm going to I want someone who's the best. And if you're not the best, you have to kind of own up to that and tell the client like, hey, I know you want me to take on your social media, but in full transparency, we're not good at social media. That might change in the future when I get a team member or I meet somebody who can do great social media work. But right now, I don't think we're a good fit to help you with that. I wouldn't be doing right by you if I, did that for you. I think you have to know who you are and be very authentic to what you're good at and what value you can provide and what your team can provide. And it doesn't mean you'll never do it. It just means right now, like, we're not a good fit for that. And we've done that for years with websites. I mean, we sent a ton of revenue to other partners because I would, in our dispensary clients, I'd be like, hey, I know this guy. The guy's name was Jay. And it was like, Jay is building really good sites for dispensaries. So I think you should talk to him because we're just not great at that. I still do that with like website design, like, the picking the colors and the feel of the site. And if your business was a car, what kind of car would it be? And like sharp lines, curved lines, all that like design creative. I'll tell people, I'll be like, hey, we're not the right fit for you. If you want to talk for hours on branding, colors, design, feels, we can get you something live, but like, we're not good at that. That's not our wheelhouse. I don't even have anybody on my team that's good at that.
Right. So it's kind of like, again, like you said, knowing yourself and having that confidence in what you know you're good at.
Yeah. And if you position it in your mind as like, I wouldn't be doing right by my client. If you see your client as somebody under your protection, so you need to like be upfront with them and transparent and protect their best interest, then that mindset shift, I think, helps you say no to things that just are not in your wheelhouse. And I think it actually builds a tremendous amount of trust. Like when you say, I'm not good at something and you're vulnerable or we're not the best fit, their level of I trust with you, I think goes up because if you think you're good at everything, that would be like a doctor saying, I'm the best brain surgeon, the best heart surgeon, the best
dentist.
Yeah, the best dentist. And you're like, that's crazy. How could you be the best at those? Like, come on, all three? Like, that just doesn't feel right. So I think it actually will work in your favor if you know when to say no and have that ability. At the same time, you're going to have that dilemma of like, we need to make the money. And that's where it's going to be tough to not take on the project. So you're going to have to really
balance it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tough.
One question, and this is more of just like a hypothetical, if you don't mind. If I wanted to, let's say, start a business like Terrayn, I have an idea. I've got, let's say, a list of clients that I think would do well. Just for, I think, hypothetical sense, you kind of, I think, mainly service CBD related clients, or?
Yeah, like the cannabis, not as much CBD, but the cannabis, recreational, and medical marijuana.
All right. So let's say I'm trying to jump into that industry as well. What if you were to give me, let's say, a boot camp 10-minute lesson on how I can get started off? Would that be something we can do and can we cover it in 10 minutes?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like so cannabis, recreational dispensaries is a relatively new thing since 2014 when Colorado was the first U.S. state to do recreational cannabis. There had been medical before in other states, but that was kind of to me, like the beginning of it. So the way to look at it is it's a local retail business, like a store that sells wine, a store that sells beer, a store that sells shoes. I would, in a crash course of learning this industry, I would look at it like this is a retail operation. So there's principles to local retail that you can look up and identify that are going to be the same, like turnover of inventory, yeah, like driving foot traffic. That's kind of relevant for other stores as well. So I wouldn't get too crazy about, oh, it's so different. It has a lot of the same principles as other things in local markets that you can look at. But the crash course on like the industry would be understanding the legal frameworks, like because it is a gray area of like not federally legal, but like legal at the state level. You have to be careful about what you don't get the opportunities to market the same way as other types of businesses, like a jewelry store, a shoe store, I don't know, collectibles store, like comic book store. Like they can do all kinds of marketing things, but with recreational cannabis, because it's still federally illegal, you have to like understand some of those nuances that you can't just do everything. So that would be one thing to be careful about is like social media is a great example. Like we don't do any social media and a lot of our clients don't do social media because they get banned off these platforms the more they post because it's federally illegal. And if there's any inclination that they're trying to sell via those platforms, they get banned and it's just not worth, and they don't drive a lot of revenue from it. So that would be like the legality of the industry. I would definitely, dig into and make sure you understand. And then I would really get into like understanding of the clients and who is running these dispensaries, who is in this industry, how did they get into it, what's their background, and really seek to understand like who they are. Because what we've learned is that, there's a lot of different types of folks in this industry, but at the end of the day, they're business people too, and they're trying to make this business successful, and they have a lot of headwinds, preventing them from being successful. So for us, it's a big deal because that's who we serve, and we're there to help them, overcome these challenges. So we really seek to understand their challenges, and their challenges are foot traffic, not able to market on all the platforms that any other business can, cost of acquiring customers, competition. Like there's a lot of dispensaries in some of these states, and there's like way too many for the size of the market. Turnover of personnel, like, they have that challenge like everybody does, it seems today, is like finding good talent and retaining that talent in your business. I would really seek to understand their pain point at their level and who they are. And then I think you could leverage that into like adding value in this industry. And I think it's nuanced. It's different than another client in another industry because of the nature of it being in this weird legal, not fully legal and not fully illegal. It's in this like middle area that's kind of no man's land. Does that help?
Okay. It does. I was going to say that SEO normally has its own difficulty rating, but I think with CBD and cannabis, you've turned up the difficulty a lot higher.
Yeah, and if there's only one channel to get new customers, which is organic, let's say to get a brand new customer in the door, then you've taken all these things you could do and you've limited it to this, and then everybody's fighting over the same little piece, which makes it more competitive. And then if you already have too many competitors, now you're like layering the challenge on itself. So
what do you guys do that separates you from the rest of them? How do you guys make sure that you're a cut above the rest?
Yeah. So that's really actually an easy question to answer. I hire people that used to run dispensaries and that we've either worked with or they know those challenges firsthand because they've done it. There's that difference between having advice and an opinion, right? Like I've never run a dispensary myself, so I have an opinion of how it should be done. But I have people on my team that have actual advice because they've done it. So they're on our team. They provide a lot of that input. And that's how we've been able to, in my opinion, be ahead of the curve and understand the challenges better than most, and then align our solutions to fit those.
And if you don't mind, how do you find these people who are advice givers and not just opinion givers?
Yeah. So the advice givers that have done the work, when we put out our advertising to like hire, we run a hiring funnel, and it'll be like 400 or 500 resumes to get 2 job offer letters out. And we're looking for people that have that experience and then have a desire to be involved in the marketing side of that industry. The other thing that we've been able to do is, because we've worked with a lot of people in the industry, we know a lot of like, one of my team members is great, and he was an old client of ours. He used to be a client. It ended up that they downsized, or for some reason, like, he came on the job market and we had a great relationship. So we put it together where we can work together. So I think that's kind of our 2 ways, either the advertising hiring funnel, or we have a relationship or we get an introduction to someone and then we put that together, and we're always looking for that talent. Like, there's only so many people that have it in the world today. It's not like in the US we have McDonald's, and there's a lot of people in the world that have worked at McDonald's, like thousands and thousands. Well, cannabis isn't like that. Like, there's not that many people that have worked and run or opened dispensaries in the world right now compared to other things.
Like, I'm pretty sure there are quite a few people who have, let's say, consumed it, but not exactly run a business
around it,
providing it.
Yeah. Like, and that's like, there's a ton of people that have consumed it around the world. There's not as many that like know the business side of it and understand it.
The legalities behind everything as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you ever find yourself maybe during the years of Terrayn that this might not be the right path for you, that you might have to switch to something else altogether, like HVAC services? Or did you always think that cannabis is something you can stick with?
Yeah, we're going to stick with cannabis, like, through all the turbulence and all the craziness. But I think we're going to, and we've already kind of leaned into this, is open up other industries that have characteristics that we could also help and serve. I think we've identified a sweet spot where we can add the most value. And I think we're going to continue to double down on that, but it might be in another industry. Like we just are working on a potential partner with Italian grocery stores across the US. Like, well, that's very specialized, very niche, and people that are looking for that are looking for a specific type of product. Or category of store, and it's not a grocery store, it's an Italian grocery store. So I think that's like, we could value there. There's that desire for somebody to go there and find something specific, which is similar to cannabis. So we're definitely going to open it up.
Okay. To kind of go back a little bit on what you had said earlier, you talked about how you and I think your clients don't really do much about social media. Is there a way to do social media without the legal issues, or is it something that just is not in the lane at all because it's too complicated?
I think there is with dispensaries and with cannabis. Like, you can do social media, there's no doubt. But I think for our clients who run the local retail dispensaries, it just doesn't have the ROI as putting your effort into, the website and the maps exposure and other things. It just doesn't have that ROI yet. I think maybe with full federal legalization and other platforms opening up, it might, but for right now, it just doesn't have I would say, like, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Like, you could spend thousands in it and not get your money out of it. And at the end of the day, like, cannabis sales, you got to have margin. You can't overpay to get a customer, and it's a commodity, and, prices can get pushed down when there's too much supply on the market. So you got to be careful how much you're spending to get that customer in. So I think it just doesn't it's just not worth doing right now. But can it be done? Yeah, of course. Like, and there's brands that do a great job, that they're trying to push their brand. I think that's where social media has a way better impact and is better. But for the local retailers, it's just not. I haven't seen it be a huge push yet and be successful at that level yet.
When it does come to, let's say, lead generation for your type of business, what would you advise other people to do if they want to kind of scale at the same rate?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things with dispensaries you have to do. One is you have to dominate that local mobile search. Google released that 78% of local mobile searches result in offline conversions, which means that person who looks for a dispensary near me is a really motivated buyer. You got to get in front of those folks in your area. So that's like step one. And now that, Google Maps has become Google Business Profile, like that's important. And also Apple Maps, any mapping aspect to me is important, for that piece. We call that like the hyper local space. The other thing would be your website and how it shows up in the local searches around points of interest, around product searches. That will help with your e-commerce optimization because online orders tend to have more of a higher ticket values, and you can prepare them and people can come pick them up. I think that has opportunity. So I would absolutely work on the SEO of your website and from a product perspective and a local perspective so that you get found for the most local searches as possible that are relevant for your business. After that, the marketing, I think, becomes more of a getting existing customers to come in more often and to spend more while they're in. And I think you can use your loyalty program and optimize the conversion rate on the site, increase like site speed, better design site, branding, all that can become relevant, put on events. I've seen all that be effective, but that's kind of the order I would go in. And we call that like our playbook. Like if you have that first, that local mobile search exposure and maps, then that's like step one. And then after that, you want your website to have all that exposure around products and points of interest and being local in that market for the category. And then after that, you can work on, getting customers to come back in more often.
Do you feel that AI has any way to wiggle into your industry, or something that you can stay away from?
No, I think it absolutely does. Like, there's a lot of application for it. And I think you're foolish to not entertain how it could be leveraged and impactful for your business. So yeah, I mean, specifically like content creation, optimizing descriptions of products. There's a lot of AI applications that I think you should be using and doing. There's no reason not to. I think it's only going to become bigger and bigger of a deal. The genie's out of the bottle too. Like, I don't think people are going to go back to a world where they don't try to use AI for stuff. So you might as well find ways to let it help you get more done in your business. So,
are you currently using AI in any of your services, not as a solution, but?
Yeah, we use it for a lot of research. We use it for a lot of content, like creating content that we can then add to, a larger kind of write up. It helps us get a lot of first drafts done, to be honest with you. We still edit. We still have to like match the tonality, and we're still learning to become better at training it to like the unique location. But like, I think it's absolutely like it is a part of our, we use it as leverage to help get things done faster and do more for our clients for less. So there's no doubt.
I've come across, I think, very few people who've had, let's say, a completely negative view on AI. I think for the most part, they've always said that if you don't really embrace it, you'll be the ones kind of losing out. I think that's kind of like the same take you have, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You can't ignore it. I think you have to be very open to it. I think so. I don't really have much else to say on that. Like, I think in a world where it's readily available, like what becomes differentiation for a business is going to be the next thing that people aren't thinking about. That I wonder, in a world where every product I have on my shelf the description can be AI optimized. Well, then how do I set myself apart from the guy who's across the street who has the same product and the same AI writing the same description? Like that's like the next level that like I think is, because we always look at that with tools that we get for our clients or use for them. It's like, well, if everybody else has this tool, how unique then is this menu provider or this whatever tool or plugin or whatever? It's like, if everybody else does the same thing in the future, how do you stand out and be unique? And I think for me, that's, somebody would probably argue like, well, the AI, pushes out different answers. Well, okay, but like if you don't train it and you don't know how to, like, then you're going to end up kind of with the same thing, or you're just using the same tool. Like a lot of our online menu providers in Cannabis, they have the same database of product descriptions, which means that product description is the same on like 1,000 other sites.
One thing we kind of also kind of realized was that when we were doing with SEO in general, what separates our SEO agency from another SEO agency, we kind of understood that it comes down to the value that you add. So when it came to ChatGPT and AI, and if everyone is using it at the same time, how to differentiate your AI from someone else's AI, we again went with, is your AI providing value? Because anyone can write into ChatGPT, give me an article about this, or put in the keywords over here. But adding that value where people actually want to read it is something that we've always felt like that's something we needed to include.
Absolutely. And I think you nailed it too, because you have to we no longer live in a world where like it's a big deal to knock out 20 blog posts. It just isn't.
Yeah.
But it is a big deal to knock out 20 extremely valuable blog posts that people will read and reference and apply and take action on. That's different. And I think AI can help you do, the 20 impactful pieces. But if you're just using it to get 20 out the door, then it's not as impactful. And I think you have to define that and know, what you're doing with that. So.
Yeah. And that's where your, the experts come into play.
Yeah. I still think you need that thought process of like, a great example would be with a dispensary, like how to roll a joint. Okay. The AI could knock out an article for that and you could rank for it nationally, but that's not going to drive a lot of people in locally. So like, is that really worth your time and investment? Like if all you need is relevant traffic that then okay, yes. But would you spend a ton of money to do that on a national level? And there's not a lot of people searching it within 5 miles of you. So, questionable.
Fair enough.
So to your point, the value, is it valuable? Maybe, maybe not. Probably not as valuable as something else.
The last part of this is, I think, could be the most valuable of the call. I was trying my best to segue using valuable.
That's cool.
But the last question isn't really much of a question, to be honest. It's more of like a shameless pitch for yourself. If you had 2 minutes to kind of promote yourself and promote Terrayn, this would be the 2 minutes for you.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll just say two things. Like, obviously, if you're in dispensary and cannabis land, I think we're a good partner to have to leverage to get our insight and our experience. We've worked in all the markets. We've worked in the US and Canada. We have a lot of value and insight and advice to offer, not just opinions. And we just have seen a lot over the years now. We've seen a lot of the ups and downs, how to deal with these situations. We've had clients call us when their point of sale goes down to try to help them fix it. Those kind of things beyond just marketing. And on the other side, I think our mindset, something that I didn't hit earlier on differentiation, is that like we always are looking for how can we do more faster with less. So I think what we try to do is get like a year's worth of stuff done in 90 days so that you can get the value as soon as possible. So I think even if you're not in cannabis and you listen to this and you think that you're sitting on a gold mine, if you could just get Google to work for you and start driving business, I'd love to see what you're looking at as well and see if we could help, because we're going down this path of like, how do we get 2 years worth of work done in like 6 months so that you're getting the value as a business owner that much faster? I think with AI, with the ability to tap into talent all over the world, you can start to do a lot of things really fast that in the past have taken a lot longer to do. Even things like this algorithm reacting, to a new piece of content. Like I used to think it would take longer, but man, like we see things in the rankings, like right after we publish them. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, so I think that would be the other kind of shameless pitch would be, I think we can deliver more value faster by the way we do business, which is very much what's important, what will have an impact for you.
And where can people find you and Terrayn?
Yeah, just shoot me an email on LinkedIn. They can reach out. Terrayn's website, if you submit any contact form, that'll get in touch with me or Jack, my brother. yeah, just reach out, or call our business phone number, any of those things. We'll absolutely have a conversation regardless. We still do consults and strategy sessions with people in other industries because it helps keep us sharp and see what's working in other industries. So please don't be afraid to reach out. We'll help in any way we can.
Thank you so much again for the chat, Trevor. It's been great. I hope the viewers and listeners also kind of get the same bonus that I kind of got from all of this. But thank you again for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching that episode. I hope you enjoyed. For more videos like this, make sure you like and subscribe.